Alright, it is 9:05 a.m. May the 12th, 21, and I'm going to be looking for morning panic bounce plays. KPAY ideally runs a second day. I might consider it if it drops significantly, but these are always kind of sketchy when they have only been up one day. It shows that this stock can actually run for a few days, so it's not that bad, but it's not necessarily the best. Here it shows that I can only spike one day, so I will be considering it for a dip buy, but not too likely. NGCG, I will be considering this now for morning panic bounce play, although the volume is like ELRA, it's not really that good, so that's just going to be something to take into consideration. And I'm kind of tired of dip buying these stocks for a morning panic bounce play and just holding it for like a minute or two. So a little sketchy, but I'm gonna have to do it. What I'm gonna consider is buying, and I'm gonna just risk it off the level that I bought. So I'm gonna buy, I'm gonna hold, and then ideally if it's at least like a 5% move, of course sometimes it doesn't even bounce that high in the downtrends, but if it does a nice spike, at least above 5% in theory, that's when I should consider selling, or if the price action is just really that bad. But I'm going to try risking it off the same level I bought, just so I can potentially be able to hold these setups a little longer. I miss a lot of these setups just like not holding it too long. I just need to have more guts. I'm not even trading large position sizes. A lot of these are $500 position sizes, so like ideally here, right, I did do a nice buy, but this one might have been a little different because $1 could have held, and that's a serious level. But still, I need to just try risking it off the same level that I bought. I know that means it's probably going to break the level that I bought, and I'm going to cut losses quickly, right? But eventually, I think this is the way to go. Just risking it off the level, not holding for 1.5 minutes and then selling immediately. I gotta do better than that. So that's the mindset I have. I need to keep working on that. I cut my losses very easily, very well, but I'm also cutting my winning trades kind of early too. So I need to get better at that. That's the mindset I have. Some nice potential stocks for a morning panic. We'll see how it goes. Alright, it is 9:37. Haven't made a trade. GGII uptrend, no downtrend. ELRA is not trading with much volume. Just don't really want to trade it. GVSI small uptrend. KPAY. This one would be sketchy because again it was only up one day. NGCG, nothing I want to trade right now. HMBO, I don't think this one did much of a panic. It wasn't really a panic. The one that did kind of work was LTNC. I saw it when it was downtrending. I just really didn't have faith in this because it's so late in the pattern. But my idea of risking it off the buy level, ideally it would have been in the 27s or the 285 or under that. Then I would have held through all of this, and then I'd be perhaps selling now into 31 from 28. That would be a 10% move. So that's exactly what I'm thinking of doing. That just, even though it's a little more risk, I mean, just selling the next 2 minutes is kind of pathetic. I gotta keep doing better than that. However, maybe it's not too bad to risk off a price action instead of, risking it off the level that I bought, because perhaps a bad daily chart can signify just a lower probability of it working. I don't know. It's just gonna be a continued observation, but no setups right now. Alright, it is 9:50. GGII is downtrending. The issue when you see it from the very beginning is that I want to avoid this, but at the slightest movement of a potential reversal, you immediately want to buy into it because you've been seeing it downtrending the whole day, and then it still has more room to downtrend. It's just that you've been seeing the downtrend since the very beginning. It was a very small stutter step right here, but it kept downtrending. Had it have held, that would have been fine. Just would have been kind of strange. Ideally it drops all the way to 10, but it doesn't have to do that. It's just gonna be a watch to see what it does, and maybe a potential dip buy. Not really. I guess it is kind of a morning panic, but it's not too ideal. It wasn't at the market open. Maybe it's gonna try to reverse here. I'll just keep watching it. Alright, it is 9:52. Tim took a dip buy at 123. I don't know, I would have wanted it to have dropped more, but let's see how high this thing does. If it puts up a higher low, maybe I'll be interested, but I just would have liked it if it dropped more. This is not really that ideal. I'm sure I'll do better tomorrow, hopefully at a drop, but right now it's no setup. Alright, it is 10:07 a.m. Like I said earlier today, the one I'm going to actually hold for longer is not going to work out. Now I won't consider this setup until if we have one, an inverse head and shoulders. But just to go over, at 9:56, I attempted to buy my first set of shares right here, where it was a 9:56 right here, and the first green candle. Then I canceled the order. It didn't get filled anyway, so I got out, and then at 9:58 right here, considered a buy again. This one I canceled because I just didn't like the price action. I canceled the order, and then I actually got filled here at 10 o'clock. So it's right here, 10 o'clock at 10:46, and I ended up holding through this run up to the 11. So I'm going to see how much of a percent change that was. Risked it off the level that I bought. Had I been more maybe nitpicky on what exactly I was in at, I thought I was in at 10.4. This is 10.46, so maybe I would have done differently. But here was the thing: when it broke that 10.46 level right here, I managed to get out at 10.05 right here. So nobody can call me out and say I'm a little premature baby, can't hold a trade in. At least I tried here. It didn't work out. I don't regret it too much. You know, had I have not had this mindset, could have sold here into the 11s potentially, but didn't. And you know, disappointing because we did have that big volume here and it started to fade. So maybe I thought less panic potential because of that, but no, it turns out we have more panic to go. Now we're under 10. So this thing could be like LTNC yesterday, where it breaks under 1 and then it, you know, has this max panic, whatever price action you want to call it, and then it continues the uptrend and break past the level. But the issue is that this isn't really a clean breakdown, so I'm going to wait for a potential, if it does it again, an inverse head and shoulders. If it doesn't do an inverse head and shoulders, I don't care if this random drop right here is the one that bounces. I'm just not going to try to, you know, continue getting paper cuts trying to buy something that just doesn't bounce on the day. So if it does an inverse head and shoulders, I'll be interested. Nobody can say I was bad there. I held for 5 freaking minutes just because that was when it cut, you know, under my entry price, so I had to get out immediately. Actually, it wasn't bad, the execution, 10.05, you know, considering that it broke the level right here. Yeah, considering that it broke the level, although I did get filled at 10.01, so it was right here. Right, so I entered the order at 10.05, but I actually got out at 10.06, so I held for 6 minutes. But yeah, of course, you know, probably would have been better. Maybe I should have considered selling half here. So maybe, you know, I can sell half at the first signs that it's doing well and then continue to hold. But yeah, that was fine. I'm going to keep looking, but nothing I want to trade unless it does an inverse head and shoulders. It is holding well here, but this could be a level of resistance. So yeah, it's just going to be a watch. Alright, 10:18 a.m. We did have that big volume candle here, which is unfortunate, but we're going to see if it breaks, you know, 10, or I guess 100 in this case, or 1,000. I don't care. I know it's 10 cents, but you know, they play off the percentage of each penny. We'll see if it considers it. If it does a higher low, I might trade and then risk off the low of day. But if I'm gonna have to guess, I'm gonna guess I missed out on this one, which isn't too bad because, again, I'm not gonna just paper cut my way and then this thing just downtrends the entire time. It's not exactly the same, but it's kind of like, okay. I'll get the picture of it, but I've seen this before. Let me find the picture. Okay, looks like we're at 10-3 again. If it doesn't inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, maybe it spikes to the, I don't know, and then it kind of drops and holds one, maybe. This is not really the best one, but this stock ADHC, as you can tell, went from 6 to 19 cents. No, excuse me, not 6 to 19. That would be crazy, but it did go from, 6 to 19 in that sense. I know it's not a, I know it's a sub penny, but it doesn't really show it here. But this was a trade I had. This thing literally went all the way back to zero. Not zero as in 0, but it went like all the way down to maybe 2% up on the day, or maybe even break even on the day. This thing went from 6 to 19, had this downtrend, and I'm not trying to. It's gonna hold here, fail. It's gonna hold here, fail, and it just continued to drop. So that's what I'm just trying not to get stuck in. And it's doing it here. Maybe if it spikes nicely to 11 and then it drops and holds 10, sure, but it's no longer the ideal setup because it did already have an initial bounce. But I'll keep watching. Nobody here can call me a chicken anymore for not holding a trade longer. I tried it here, cut it exactly when it broke the price level. And that's why for a long time I have been trading based off of price action instead of risking it off a level, because whenever I risk off a level, it almost always breaks that level. But I guess I'm just gonna have to get used to it. It worked very nicely with LTNC. I could have bought anywhere back here, and I would have held through this, and then I would have been able to sell through this VWAP break, at what is it, 30, and then maybe a sell into the 31s. That would have been very easy to do. So maybe only certain types of setups I'll consider trading based off of price action, and then maybe certain other ones I trade risking off a certain level. Maybe if it's initially had a bunch of green movements, then I'll consider selling only based off of price action, and then the other ones like LTNC that just does a morning panic very easily every day, almost every day. That could be something where I risk off in my buy level. So it's just gonna be a continued watch here. I might consider an inverse head and shoulders, but not 100%. This thing could ultimately drop, make a lower low, and then be the head for an inverse head and shoulders. So I have that in mind too. Okay, 10:27 a.m. I basically scalped it. But anyway, look, shoulder, head, not perfectly ideal, because I would have liked it if it spiked towards the neckline here at 11. It didn't do it. It only got as high as 10.47. So still, ideally shoulder, head, shoulder. Okay, so what did I do? I bought the shoulder. And where is it? Right here, I bought at 10.25. It was a rather quick entry right here. I got in at 9.79, so not even the best entry really, but the ideal thing is that it's a shoulder, right? First green candle, so ideally that could be a setup, right? So again, shoulder, head, shoulder, bought right here, 9.79, not even the best entry. And then that sold at 10.3, like 2 minutes later, almost 2 minutes later, but 10.27 right here at sold at 10.3, which was basically the top. So not the best entry really, I'll be honest, but my exit was perfect at 10.3. So why did I chicken and sell out so quickly? This thing could hold not 12, this thing could hold 10, right? Consolidate maybe a little and immediately bounce. Well, there have been a lot of sellers on the ask, but mainly the main reason why I didn't get in the trade, stay in the trade longer, is because of this right here. This thing, don't want it to be a lower high, then I get wrecked, right? So, and besides that, I did reach that minimum 5% gain. So if I'm gonna be a chicken and get out immediately, 5% right there. Looking back now, even when I bought here, right, I could have actually sold in the 11s for 5%. So I need to do that thing where I'm at least waiting for 5%. So if it's at 5% from where I bought, ideally, and it seems like it's being profitable, but the price action is not looking good, and maybe it can consider a downtrend, some more downtrending, that's when I can perhaps consider selling just at that level. If it's 5%, of course this is not an exact science, but if I'm in the trade, the price action is starting to look bad, but I'm about 5% up from my trade, I'll consider selling. Otherwise, if it's like LTNC, I'm not going to be a chicken. At least try not to be a chicken and buy here at 28 and then sell immediately at 295, and then I miss out from selling 32, which is a much better exit. So it's just gonna be a lot of thinking about how I trade these things, but that's the idea. This thing could definitely hold 10 and do a nice uptrend, but I didn't like the price action. Didn't want to be stuck in a lower high, this being a lower high from here. It could totally turn around, but this is what I wanted. The inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. Bought this one, not even the best entry, but it was at least a bit of a confirmation when I bought. It wasn't just like randomly buying, when it looks like it could continue the downtrend. So that was a trade there. It was $20. Again, I'm trading small positions. I think it was even smaller than. No, it was slightly larger. It doesn't really matter that much, but I guess I'm up $6 on the day. The first one, I guess looking back now, probably could have considered selling in the 11s because that was give or take 5%. And the price action wasn't looking good, but I thought, okay, price action looks like shit. I would probably be selling by now, but I'm going to hold and risk off my level, and then it breaks the level. So again, if it does a nice uptrend, but the price action is starting to look really bad and I'm profitable, I'm going to get out of the trade. And sure, maybe I'll miss out, but it will keep me in longer in trades like LTNC, where I ideally risk off the level, price action doesn't look too bad, and then I sell into that nice spike after it breaks VWAP or something like that, right? Again, this is just going to be a continuation. I'm not extremely sure what the mindset is going to be or what set of rules I'm going to do, or nothing concrete, but I'm gonna just consider that, keep working on trading setups. I don't see anything I want to trade right now. I'm actually gonna start working on other things, although I'll casually be looking. I mean, this thing could be at 13 by the end of the day, but there have always been a lot of people selling on the ask and a lot of dumping on the bid. Had I have started today with this mindset, probably would have sold again, ideally in the 11s for a 5% gain, just because the price action wasn't looking good. If it was looking good, I'd be holding even longer, because then I'd wait until the price action looks bad and then I sell. But if I immediately risk off of my entry, I might be able to get in more profitable, much more profitable trades and not come off as a scalper. So I'll keep looking, but not too much. No setups at the moment. Okay, it's 10:37. If I wasn't too much of a chicken, I would consider a buy and risking it off of this level here at 96. I just feel like there's going to be a lot of resistance, but the good thing is that volume is fading, which is good because that means people aren't dumping their shares. There aren't people panicking, or there isn't people panicking. That's proper grammar right there, but anyway, it's just going to be a watch. I mean, I think this thing could uptrend right here, and it could even try to test VWAP and break it. It looks like it might try to do it here. I was just a bit too much of a chicken here. Again, would have risked it off of this 97 level, but I will make an update and see how well this thing does. Again, fading volume. This is something I would have probably not have learned, or have taken a very long time to learn, had I have not have been in the challenge. In that one webinar with Michael Good, he mentions that it's actually good to see low volume or volume fading, because that actually shows that people are no longer panicking. I would think the other way. Oh, fading volume, that means people aren't going to be buying anymore. There's less buying action. That's wrong. There's less selling action. It's that 10.0. This is nice. 10.78. Very nice. Had I have waited too, I would have probably sold into this mini dip right here, because you never know how much it'll drop. I mean, you know now because you're looking at it after it's happened, but you don't know how much this thing would have dropped right here had I have continued to hold. I don't regret my sell at 10.3 at all. But this I could have considered buying back when it was back here. Again, was just worried about this resistance level. Let's see how it does at VWAP. I'll make an update, but no setups right now. I don't mind if I don't trade the rest of today. Alright, 10:49. Just posted my trades on Profitly. This is nice. Again, could have considered the buy. Not really at the dip, but again at this 10 level. Really had that intuition on wanting to buy there because I've obviously seen one way or another this same type of setup on a different stock, or maybe the same stock in a different time frame, enough times that I'm starting to pick up on these, but I don't feel that bad for missing out. Again, morning panic bounce plays is my thing. Uptrending setups, still gotta keep focusing on it. That's a sketchy looking, both of these are sketchy looking candles, but very nice. Now it's at 11.71, broke VWAP level. It rejected VWAP initially. I might have even sold had I been in the trade, and I would have felt bad because it did just kind of come back immediately and then picked up, really made a nice higher low right here off of this level here as well, and this level. Very strong move here. Will definitely be selling now. Well, it depends on the price action, but I'd be considering selling. I don't know how good the price action is because I haven't been looking, but very nice. I'll keep looking. No setups likely for the rest of the day, but I'll look. Okay, it's 11:49 a.m. and I'm going to call it off just because I don't see any stock that is really up nicely to the point where it might do a close, you know, a nice close that I can buy and sell into, but BRGO could do it here. It's just not as nice as KPAY yesterday. As you can tell, if you look yesterday, it closed up super nicely, right? But I'm not going to consider it with BRGO. I'm just going to call it off. ELRA, nothing I want to trade. The liquid, no crazy price action. GGII, if you remember, I had a trade here. In the future, I'll consider selling after I've held for at least 2 minutes. It just has to be at least 2 minutes, and then I could have, you know, sold right here for a 5% gain, and then I did this buy and sell here, which was pretty nice. And then I could have bought here once it started to show that it could potentially break past 1 or 10 cents, if you want to call it 10 cents, which is really what it is, 10 cents, and hold. Initially very big spike, slight stutter step, but it did a nice run, broke VWAP right there. Probably would have considered selling a little after it sells VWAP. That seems to be the situation. LTNC was similar, in which that it downtrended, sure, morning panic bounce play, stutter here as well, broke VWAP, and then maybe a sell after VWAP. That's something I'm going to be looking at. It's not, you know, an exact science, but just maybe something I can start doing for another type of setup. It's just something to learn from. GVSI, nothing I want to trade. KPAY, didn't really want to consider it for a morning panic bounce play because it was only up 1 day. Probably best not to have traded it today, and I didn't trade it, so that was a good. Overall, I'm up like, I don't know, something small, $6, because I'm trading small positions, but if I keep proving myself that I can actually trade these things and hold them longer and be more consistent, I'll consider a larger size, which seems to be in the horizon. Of course, it's not an exact science, Lord willingly, you know, I get there, but right now just a good trading day. Gonna call it off. 2 good trades with GGII and a lot more experience.